saying we've got these missing people, and there were these messages exchanged, and there was something about a very large property. It's supposed to be something like 100 acres. Do you know any place like that in your town? And the police department's like, yeah, there's only one place like that in town, and we know exactly where it is.
Right, and who owns it.
Yeah. So one set of officers goes to Kohlhepp's house. The other officers from that town go to that property.
Okay.
So at the same exact time. Now, the officers that go to his large fenced-in property, when they get there, they are looking around and they hear banging coming in from inside of this large metal container. It's like a storage container, basically.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, somebody's in there. Somebody's screaming for help. So they get into that container, and there's Kayla, and she's chained up and in a cage like a dog, basically.
Perfect.
They get her out of there, and they rescue her. Oh
Thank goodness.
Amazing. They also arrest Kohlhepp at his house.
Right. Which, thank goodness for smarter cops to not let him wander aimlessly and get rid of the evidence of a human who is still alive and can maybe proceed with their life.
Yeah. And Kayla tells authorities that the day that they went there to initially do that cleaning for him, she watched Kohlhepp snap and shoot her boyfriend right in front of her.
Oh, no.
And then he kept her in captivity, and he would feed her and bring her food and drink. He'd come and check up on her 3 times a day. He repeatedly assaulted her.
Of course he did.
And he also showed her 3 graves on his property and told her that if she ever tried to escape, she was going right into the ground with those 3 people, one of which was her boyfriend.
Perfect.
The other 2 graves belonged to a married couple that had gone missing in the area a while before.
Who also came to clean the property?
Yes. So after they had arrested Kohlhepp and he was in custody, he had decided that he was going to come clean about that mass shooting at the motorcycle shop. And they're all like, oh, okay, wow, so this is really big. So this brings the total of people that he has murdered to 7.
Right.
The other thing, though, that is not so settling is that he has also mentioned other murders, like one in Tempe, Arizona, where he apparently had shot somebody. They have not been able to figure out whether or not it's legit or who the person is. But he said that it's not really a matter of addition, it's a matter of multiplication, which to me is very creepy because most people take that as being, so your numbers are much higher than we realize.
For sure.
And they do not know the exact number of people that he has murdered.
Cool.
The other thing, by the way, that I think is really interesting is how he was able to obtain all these weapons that he was shooting people with. Because he was a felon and he was getting guns, but most people believe that he was having other people purchase the weapons for him, or he was doing, he's doing some shady stuff to get them.
I mean, he was already acquiring weaponry when he was 16, so...
So on May 26th of 2017, Kohlhepp pleaded guilty to 7 counts of murder, 2 counts of kidnapping, and 1 count of criminal sexual assault. And he was sentenced to 7 consecutive life sentences.
Good.
Without the possibility of parole.
Hooray for that.
Yeah. And that was part of a plea bargain that spared him from the death penalty. Yeah.
Wait, no, we're in 2000, so it would have been lethal injection.
And even though his defense attorney swore at the sentencing that there were no other victims to be found, people are not feeling so great about that because it wasn't until after the sentencing that he really started talking about...
Of course he did.
He had killed many more people. I watched an episode of 48 Hours where they did a whole special on this. They don't talk a whole lot about his past and his childhood, but they do have an interview with his mother. They talk a lot about Kayla. His mother is... I think, I get that it's her son, but she is very defensive of him, and she's not really owning up to the fact that he's a complete and total monster. And it's really kind of upsetting to listen to her make all of the excuses that she makes for him.
But then you want to make yourself feel better by not assuming that you had a legit monster in your life. You know what I mean?
The other thing that I found out after doing the research on this is that, from what I understand, Caleb Brown is suing him and coming after him, which she absolutely should, because nothing is going to repair the damage that he's done to her. But, honey, you go after him for everything that you can.
Right. Yeah. Especially since he had the money before.
But it is very sad.
I mean, it's not my favorite story. I'm glad that you parceled it in a way that's nicer.
Yeah, well, I am trying to be very, like I said, I'm trying to be very sensitive about it because it's a fresher case, and, you know, these people are still alive and they're still dealing with this, and lots of people lost their loved ones.
Right. No kidding. And then that poor woman was...
I know. Scott Ponder's wife, Melissa, yeah. I feel so terrible for her, but I will say this, she was kind of a badass because she was not going to let them walk all over her.
She was like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I didn't do this. I'm not unfaithful with my husband.
And then, boom, she was right.
Right.
Yeah. What of it? So, yay, it's over. Now we can talk about something paranormal.
So, I do get a little bit graphic in this because of a person that is associated with this place.
Okay.
It's not a feel-good story, really.
You had mentioned that, yeah.
But I'm going to tell you about the Trenton Psychiatric Hospital.
Oh, good. Oh, yay.
Yeah, so I'm going back to my wheelhouse, you know. Asylums.
They're all haunted. All of them.
But also, most of them, because of when they were, like, erected, it's not uncommon for there to be strife and terrible things that were happening. I've actually had this story kind of ready to go for an extended period of time since we were talking about the one in Anna, Illinois. All right, so I'm going to tell you about the Trenton Psychiatric Hospital.
Yay!
The Trenton Psychiatric Hospital was the first mental hospital that was public, erected in New Jersey. It is a state-run medical hospital. It was a passion project for Dorothea Dix, who's a huge advocate of rights at the time, of people who had mental instabilities, and their treatment. She obviously, like, very aggressively went into different institutions and was like, this is not okay. This is not okay.
I like her.
Yeah, she's amazing. She did look upon this particular hospital as kind of a child to her because it was the first one that was really made in the way that she thought that people who had some sort of ailment should be treated.
Yeah.
It's gone by several names over the years. So New Jersey State Lunatic Asylum, the New Jersey State Hospital at Trenton, and then Trenton Psychiatric Hospital.
Yeah, that last one is probably the best.
I mean... yeah.
I mean, the lunatic one is not my favorite.
Yeah, the stages of time are really shown through the...
So we can already see the progression. Great.
It was designed by an architect, John Notman, and it was the first to be built in accordance to the Kirkbride plan, which we've talked about before. The design was based on an idea advocated by Thomas Story Kirkbride and Dorothea Dix, of course, and it was promoted as a private and comfortable area for the patients with connected wings that allowed more sunlight and a lot of fresh air. The grounds were boasting areas for farming and some sort of cultivation so patients can receive physical therapy, exercise, and fresh air.
And do some gardening.
Yeah, and which also makes the hospital semi-self-sustainable at the time.
Keep those head shears away from them, though.
The hospital had opened on May 15th in 1848 with 86 patients. Although the capacity had maxed out at 90 at the time, it was often exceeded in later years, like most different care facilities. As of 1954, 4,237 people were hospitalized at this particular location. About 14 years later, in 1968, it was under 2,800, and currently the hospital has a capacity of 376 beds.
Wow.
A lot of that was said because of the funding kind of going badly, that they weren't allowing a lot of patients in there because they weren't able to take care of them as well.
Well, I mean, at least they recognized that and didn't just roll with it and then have a whole bunch of people, oh, God, you're giving me a look. Whitney's giving me a look. Okay, I'll shut up now. As she drinks her beer.
It's currently a fully operational psychiatric hospital and correctional facility, so security guards will often patrol the grounds during the day and nights, and investigators that choose to want to go here or people that are curious about the back history or ghosts would have to get permission from the superintendent and be escorted by any security personnel that are able.
Okay.
If the security is granted, you must do so after operating hours normally. There is a center that is called the Anne Klein Forensic Center, and it operates as a treatment center for criminally and violently insane patients. Currently, the facility is facing its fair share of controversy because an analysis in 2005 through about 2010 had reported that Trenton had the highest rates of violence and patient restraint compared to any of the other psychiatric hospitals in New Jersey.
Wow.
In the same time frame, there were about 157 patient-on-patient assaults resulting in major injury. It seems about 71% of the assaults that happen within psychiatric hospitals is coming specifically from Trenton.
So you say 71%?
71%.
Is that nationwide or?
It's New Jersey specifically.
Okay.
But out of 5 separate hospitals.
That's a very high number.
Yeah.
One of these things is not like the other.
One of these things is Trenton.
I'm not laughing at that. I'm sorry. It was the song. I swear.
Many parts of the campus have been abandoned and have fallen into disrepair. And there's a non-operative baseball diamond, swimming pool in the back behind everything, which I think are really fun aesthetically in my brain.
Yeah, because let's make it as creepy as possible.
Yeah, I live in that planet. I don't like it very much.
And on a dark, stormy night, you can still hear them playing baseball.
Nope. The property is so massive and supposedly eerie, and it's equipped with cottages and greenhouses. There are different speculations and claims of anyone and everyone that goes onto the property, whether they be patients, visitors, or staff. One of the biggest mysteries on the property is the abandoned forest building. There's no definitive evidence of the purpose of the building before it became abandoned.
Wait, the abandoned what building?
Forest. Forst. Forest.
Okay.
People speculate that it was used as a patient rehab or staff housing. Either way, people think that it was abandoned in about the 70s or 80s. And people that have gone in have said that the building still contains furniture, shoes, clothes, and other personal belongings, along with refrigerators with food still in them.
Ugh.
Yep. The old occupants clearly had to leave quickly, but no one really knows why except for the people that would have been in charge of that at the time. The first superintendent, Horace Buttolph.
What a name. Wow.
And now, we should know by now that maybe we're not pronouncing things right, but that's the only pronunciation I had for it, so if there's another one, sorry. He was a very good man by all reports and had provided excellent patient care for the people at the hospital. He was born on the 6th of April in 1815 in New York. He attended Berkshire Mental Institution in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, and then had graduated in 1835 with a medical degree. He started several practices in his home county and in Connecticut as well, before taking courses in mental sciences at New York University. He had visited several asylums before settling as an assistant to the superintendent of Utica State Hospital, where he continued to tour mental facilities across the United States and Europe to study their infrastructure, architecture, and management. Due to his expertise, he was hired for the superintendent position of the newly constructed New Jersey Lunatic Asylum at Trenton, New Jersey.
That name, though.
He continued to serve as a superintendent for about 29 years before moving to another hospital called the Greystone Park State Hospital, also in New Jersey. But when he left, Dr. Henry Cotton took over as superintendent.
He made a face. Was he not as good?
He's not good.
He was like the Cersei.
He's, You seen American Horror Story Asylum?
Yeah.
He's him, pretty much.
Oh, no. Nuts and bolts.
Nuts and bolts? Wait, what is this?
This is a family-friendly show.
In order to justify a lot of why this place might be haunted, we have to talk about Dr. Cotton.
Is this where it gets dark?
It gets real dark.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, you might want to refill your wine.
I'm gonna. Refilled.
So Dr. Henry Cotton had a storied pedigree. He studied in Europe with Emil Kraepelin and Alzheimer's fame.
Oh.
And with Dr. Adolf Meyer at Johns Hopkins.
Not a good name.
But at the time...
Yep, I know. I'm just saying, there's a reason we don't name our kids Adolf anymore.
Right. In 1907, at age 30, with his reputation preceding him, he began his tenure as medical director and superintendent of Trenton. By all accounts, he was a well-respected and good doctor at the beginning of his career, and he didn't have a belief in the psychiatric disorders that had stemmed from hereditary elements and was against the recently popular notions of Freud, that there was somehow a stem from childhood trauma or unconscious forces, i.e. the ego or the id, anyone that's ever gone to psych class. He was credited to his benefit. A lot of this seems like he was trying very hard to help. It's just really dark and really upsetting.
Are there experiments that are about to happen? Yeah, because it sounds like